Good evening, everyone. My name's Robert Gray, and I did my fellowship project at Depop. Depop is the fashion marketplace for the next generation. It's a social marketplace app where users can buy and sell clothes and other items. It's got 12 million users in 147 different countries. But if you haven't heard of it and you're wondering why, it's probably because more than 80% of those users are under the age of 24. And matching the values of that generation, it's a very social app. Users can chat and interact, and it's as much about community as it is about buying and selling. And at the heart of this community are Depop's top sellers. These are people for whom Depop is life. Many of them derive their entire income from selling items on the platform that they either create or curate. And in doing so, they provide a consistent supply of the items that buyers are looking for. They also provide a disproportionate amount of value for the company. In fact, the top 1% of sellers bring in over 27% of Depop's revenue. And for this reason, the top seller program was created. When sellers sell a sufficient number of items that they become eligible for the program, they're provided with an account manager, they're given access to exclusive events, all of which has the aim of helping them to grow their shop into a sustainable business. Currently, after first listing an item on the Depop app, it takes on average around 10 months for a seller to accrue enough sales that become noticed by the team and they can be onboarded onto the top seller program. But during this time, a future top seller will be behaving quite differently to an average seller who's simply selling extra items from their wardrobe. So why can't we detect these people earlier? Well, the issue is that each month, 350,000 new users are signing up to the Depop app. It's simply not practical to examine each of these new users and try and work out if they're likely to become a top seller. But of course, this is where machine learning comes in. During this project, I built a machine learning model to examine a user's behavior during the first few months after joining the platform and determine whether they're likely to become a top seller or not. And to do this, I looked at various aspects of their behavior. I looked at the items that they're selling, so the value of those items, and what kind of categories they fall in. I looked at social aspects of their behavior, so how many followers they have on the app, and if they're replying to comments on their posts, so if they're providing a good experience for buyers. I looked at if people are searching for them, and if they provide things like international shipping. I also looked at product descriptions. Because each listing on Depop has its own description, this provides a rich source of information about who a seller is and how they're behaving. I therefore trained a natural language processing model to determine what kind of language a top seller is more or less likely to use. And you can see that top sellers tend to have a more professional vocabulary. For instance, they're more likely to refer to their second-hand clothes as vintage and retro, rather than used or worn. So, combining all this information about sellers' behavior together, I trained a random forest model to examine these 350,000 users who are joining the platform each month and output a list of those sellers who are behaving most like they have the potential to become top sellers. And the best part of this is we can make these predictions based on only 4 weeks of data after a user makes their first listing on the platform. That's just 4 weeks to identify who are the people who have the potential to become top sellers. And compare that to the 10 months that I told you it was taking these users to be identified before. That equates to a 10-fold decrease in the time that it's taking the team to identify these potential top sellers. And when you remember that these individuals are of extreme importance to the company, it's clear that creating more top sellers more quickly will lead to a massive increase in value for Depop, not to mention for those sellers themselves who can grow their shop quickly, more quickly, and more effectively. Thank you very much for listening.